Hello, my beautiful co-creators. Lilu here. I'm actually in Hawaii, on Kauai, on this beautiful island, magic island of Kauai.
Yes.
You're so lucky to live here.
I feel the same way you do. That's what drew us here, is the beauty and the nature. The natural environment is amazing here.
So I'm sitting today with Chris Jaeb, that is the founder, or how do you say, the co-founder of this beautiful community?
Ground Kauai, which is a sustainable resource center located just outside Kilauea on the north shore of Kauai.
And you've created something amazing here. There is, you should see, and I'll try to film a little bit around because this is magnificent. There is gardens and facilities, and this is a huge vision that you had. Tell us about that vision and how this came about.
Sure. It used to be a guava plantation, and it was like 600 acres to it originally, but we purchased like the remaining about 50 acres. It really included the warehouse, which was a processing center, a snack bar, which was a gift shop, or snack shop, and a gift shop, and an administrational building. And our idea was to try to figure out how we could develop programs and facilities that would really resonate with what's best from a sustainability perspective for the community and future generations. So we bought it about 4 years ago, and after sort of sitting and listening to the community in a range of meetings here and at other locations, we've come up with a vision around 5 main programs that we're going to facilitate that will create the future for this location. So out of that original 600 acres, we have about 50 acres, of which include an organic garden right now, an organic field-to-table food service, and a permaculture touring environment, which are all things we can do within our current special use permit on agricultural land. But then to do any things beyond that, we have to go back to the county and ask for their approval. So generally speaking, when people want to do new ideas or new projects on land here, they go to the county and they submit their plans, and that's the first time the community hears about them. What makes our process, or the way we're going about it, way different is we sat in the community for a number of years, we're a member of the community, and then we really ask the community again, what do you think of these plans? So that's the stage we're at right now. We're individually going to the leaders and everybody else in the community and saying, what do you think of this stuff? So over the next 3 to 5 months, we're going to get some feedback, and then from that, actually develop the programs themselves and begin to actually make the submittal that'll make it so that we can move forward in actually doing these things.
Do you think there's a new model now that is being created, like business cannot be what it was before, and you call it green business, or you're in the business of green too, I guess, but there's something quite unique here happening?
You're 100% right. I believe there's a full new, and I think a lot of us feel the same thing. We're operating in a different world now, where transparency, openness, and co-creativity are going to build a better future for all, rather than having sort of that non-transparency, hold your cards close to your vest and do it the way in the name of big business that I can utilize or create the most profitable return. And that's essentially really the foundation of what the difference is in this approach. I feel like it's also saying that male-oriented, aggressive approach to big business and development has to be balanced more with the female approach, which really is more about bringing people together, communicating, and really making the ideal union rather than going from one extreme to the other. So that's what we're trying to really embark on, is how can we tell that new paradigm story in a way that it doesn't discard the old or say that that was bad. It really says, how can we create what we really want if there's true balance in the framework and the system itself.
So how do you interact again with community so everybody participates?
Well, there's a number of ways. I mean, the first way is the web's the easiest, but not everybody's on the web. So we do a range of other outreach with, different meetings and programs and events that we invite people to. For example, this weekend we're having a July 4th celebration, and the idea will be to get people out here that, generally speaking, aren't online or don't really know about us to become aware of what it is we are and what we're trying to accomplish. And probably not push it too hard, but more just make people aware that we're doing these things, and if they come to us, great. And the idea, probably long term though, is really to create that online relationship, because we can maintain that turn that weak link into a strong link more easily in that environment, and sort of begin to say, okay, these people might be interested in funding a program, certain people might be interested in being customers, certain people might be operators. Our hope is that we can, through this process, not be the people that are doing it, to really hand it off and more be the curators, the steward of the vision, rather than the people that are an individual owner that has unlimited number of projects going on that would be very difficult for any individual to really manage effectively.
So it's more now a model, it's coming to us rather than pursuing things the hard way.
Correct. The idea is to really make it so that it's easy for the people with the skills, the passion, desire to do what they really love and not be overwhelmed with all the range of other things that usually get in their way that keeps them from doing it. It's really to turn the people that are apathetic at the community level to people that are engaged at the community level. How can we make it easy for people that up to this point have sat on the sidelines because they don't like community meetings in general. They feel like it's hard to interact with the government. They feel like business is taken advantage of. How can we turn that around so they think, wow, this is an incredibly trustworthy environment that has a set of values that I can believe in and that I can support and that I know that my time will be, if I do it, will be really valued and I feel would be worthwhile, so I'll be willing to give more still and bring more of my friends to it. So fundamentally that's what we're trying to accomplish, is can we make those weak links strong in a way that people that come through here, whether they're visitors to the community and they live in another part of the world or they actually live here outright, can they connect at what level? Some people might say, I'm an expert in soils biology and I can give you an hour online once every month, and we'll create the environment where they can do that here and it has value in other places. But there also might be the person that lives here in town that says, I want to be the person that runs your your health program or your fitness program, and we would love to make that opportunity available for them as well. So it's really trying to meet people where they're at and make it so easy for them to do what they love that they don't feel like there's some crazy long-term commitment, that if they don't do it right, they in some way don't feel good about it or feel guilty that they haven't done enough.
What do you find is the biggest barrier in people really embarking like that towards their dream and doing what they love? Do you even encounter some situations where you're like, this is strange, why is this person reacting like that when everything really could be so easy? I mean, you really have this way of being and doing things, it seems, that we have a lot to learn from. There's no limit really for you, is there?
I totally agree. I believe that a number of people with similar vision and similar values can create literally anything in today's world, because the reality is the resources are so really available. In some way, the pump has been primed for many years with a lot of resources now, with people that have, whether it's financial, intellectual, or just time outright, to do these things. But the reason they don't is because it hasn't been made clear that there's an environment or a platform that really makes it make sense for them to do it. The current general big business environment isn't natural. There are sort of some good examples, I think, on the nonprofit environment, but then again, sort of the nonprofit doesn't feel right because all those guys, generally speaking, don't have great business backgrounds, so it's really hard for them to grow something that can really make it easy for large numbers of people to deal with over a period of time. So my hope is that there's a balance between the nonprofit and the for-profit in a way that has the triple bottom line values as well as the real social values that make it act like a magnet to bring people in, so that people, when they feel their passion, can act on it. And I think that's one of the main barriers right now when you talk about a barrier. I think people at some level are aware of the things that they're passionate about, but they haven't been nurtured, they haven't been given a fertile environment to be their best selves. And if we can in some way provide that offering, and one level from an educational perspective, but another level with an actual business operating environment perspective, that's huge. And I think what most communities need most right now is that entrepreneurial spirit that makes it so when you combine those values with business skills and access to green jobs kind of things, that the community is really providing for its future and generations in the most smartest, long-term, healthy way possible. Because if a community doesn't have a great economic environment, it's not going to, it needs that as a foundation to grow from. And if you throw the other stuff right in the middle of it, then it's got an unlimited potential, I believe.
But there's a lot of people that pursue their passion, and yet there's still this economy or the money part that is still very hard and heavy, or feels like it could take something away from the pureness of a project. What would you say?
Well, I think you make a great point. I mean, The average person, I think, is totally unaware that if you're an employer and you abide by all the business rules and regulations, that if I commit to pay somebody $20 an hour, I have to pay the equivalent, if I'm paying all the insurance and benefits, of $26 an hour. About $26.30, I think. That person also on his side, to meet all his obligations as far as the government and all the insurance programs and stuff are concerned, they net about $13. So if I'm paying out 26, they're taking home 13, and 13 goes to all these other things. That's a huge disincentive. On one hand, just pure cash, but on the other hand, from a business management perspective, in that $13 that I'm describing, that goes to FDIC, to Social Security programs, to insurance programs, to state taxes, to federal taxes. I mean, just go right down the list. For an individual that is unfamiliar with business, to manage all those individual relationships and stay on top of it when all he or she is trying to do is just run a business that in most cases is new to them as well, that's a huge burden. And the only entities that can do that well are big corporations that have developed the infrastructure to manage that. So if you can make it easier, by providing those skills from an educational perspective, and make it in some way package those administrational services so that the entrepreneur can just go to work, now you've done something huge, because now he has the chance of succeeding in a way that, in an environment that he otherwise would probably work for 2 or 3 years, do some great stuff, but not have enough of a financial foundation to survive.
So what is your view about how the government, for example, is proceeding right now? I mean, a lot of it doesn't seem to work anymore, does it? There's some changes that need to happen.
There's some very fundamental issues that need to be addressed, and Social Security is one of them, healthcare is one of them. But I think if you come back to the community scale operation, there's ways that you can create an exchange system that creates incredible value at very low friction in form of taxes and other incidental expenses, that makes it really worthwhile for a local entrepreneur to work in an environment with other people that believe the same things he or she does, in a way that you really get the maximum value for your effort, and you aren't giving so much away for things that you really don't support. And I think that's the thing that grinds at most people, and I think at some level is going to drive people nationally and internationally to third-party markets. If the governments can get their act together and give the incentive by reducing that friction, it's going to bring a lot more people to support their programs. And that's sort of what I'm trying to envision. Can we create a model for how you can do these things even within the scope of the current system, and really show that we can make it make sense, and then show the value of doing it 100% right besides? So that's, I think, there's a lot of issues that I've just sort of described there, but it can be simply said that you can get rid of a lot of the friction really easily just by having an administrative backbone that the individual entrepreneur isn't in charge of managing, that you can sort of, in a more automated way, make it easy to be in business.
So what's actually your story? How did you get here? How did you get to this place, creating this vision and putting it in place?
Well, it's like all of us. I believe it's a freak of nature that we have an opportunity to exist at this place in time. I mean, if you go way, way back and just realize where we actually came from, that we actually came from this environment that was so close to barely even surviving on the planet Earth and the way it goes around the sun, to actually being organisms that can communicate, and now be organisms that can communicate at the speed of light to everybody simultaneously. And who knows what the next generation is going to bring in regards to communication alone. But my story was as a result of the internet. It really comes from communication. I was very fortunate, and I had an idea at the right time in the right place, and it basically made it possible for me to not have to be in the grind anymore, and to in some way step further back and say, okay, I have a certain amount of my life left. What's important? What am I going to do with this in a way that makes me feel good? And it's been a number of years, to be honest with you. It wasn't like overnight I all of a sudden had, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It was really sitting in the middle of it for a number of years, not knowing and being open to not knowing, and just sitting there with that peace in my heart, knowing that I had the right intention and the right thing was going to work. And so it's been over like the last 3 or 4 months, it's sort of crystallized into some level of awareness and consciousness that's made me feel now much more comfortable even having this conversation. To know that I have a feeling for what really makes sense for me, and what can really add the benefit not to just this community but the global community that believes these same things.
So what was really that shift for you? Because it's not just about the money or the time, is it? I think a lot of people have that excuse right now. So there's something else.
Yeah, it was the how-to. You know, in some way I had this ambition, but I didn't know how. You know, I was really searching for the way that I could connect to it in a way that made me excited. I knew I was passionate about these things, but I couldn't get passionate about the process. So over the last few months, it was really a result of this book I read called Guerrilla PR 2.0. And it's a great story because in some way, for me in particular, it made it possible for me to imagine disseminating these ideas in a way that I could begin to see where the public stood and use it more as an art form to communicate and not treat it like it was going to be 1 and 1 equals 2, but hopefully design it in a way that 1 + 2 equals thousands. And to begin to get the word out in a way that people could hear it. So up to that point, I didn't know how that system would work. I was thinking I was going to use the internet to use sort of a range of programs to do it. But now I'm realizing it comes back to me. It comes back to me being able to say what I feel and in some way create a vision around that really makes sense, that people can feel and touch.
That is very inspiring. That's exactly the type of stories I love to, share, because there's so much juiciness in this. There's the vision, and there's a future, and there's a present. Actually, it's happening right now. You're probably blown away each day when you see this happening. Do you have to catch up to it sometimes?
Yes. I mean, I cry regularly just because of the awareness that it comes to me. And I think there's also that vulnerability aspect. Yeah. It's like when you're doing these new things that you're totally uncomfortable with, you just don't know. I often wake up in the middle of the night saying, what the hell am I doing? But then there's the other part of me that says, have that peace in your heart. You know this is right for you. Don't continue to question it. Commit to your belief system and hold strong in that. And I think that's what I've become. I think there was a guy that I talked to recently said, I have to sit in the captain's seat. And up until very recently, I haven't sat in the captain's seat. I haven't really said, this is what I am, because I didn't feel like I had the plan that made sense in a way that I could really get excited about it. Now I can feel much more comfortable sitting there and in some way feeling good about the day-to-day.
So it seems like intuition is also playing a big part. You're following some new aspects or new facets of yourself, would you say, now compared to where you were in business 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
No doubt about it. 100%. I mean,
some of those qualities.
The qualities of the intuition or the qualities of the approach, or
of how you are now interacting and in business or in everyday life and how things are coming together. What's bringing that about?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing that comes to me when you say intuition is I went to Findhorn. I don't know if you ever heard of Findhorn in northern Scotland.
Yeah,
about a year ago, and I played the transformation game. And one of the things that came up really loud and clear is what is your intuition, and how do you work with it? And I think up to that point, I just thought it was almost this gut reaction to everything that was going on. And the more I started playing the game, basically, I started realizing the intuition was the opening of the experience, and the awareness coming with saying, ask the question, not feel like you had the solution. And that in itself made me much more able to hear the possibilities and really get on the truth of the co-creation train, basically. So I think that for me right now, the intuition as it relates to this work is, yes, there's no doubt, to have a vision, you have to pursue your intuition along these lines. But the real question is, for me, is how can I use that intuition to intuit how other people feel, and to communicate with that aspect of their inner being in a way that brings them up and makes me more whole as well, and makes the mankind more complete, simultaneously.
You're also a man of the heart now.
Hallelujah.
I feel you're following your heart.
Exactly.
And that's a big one.
Exactly. And that was another thing that came up at Findhorn is I hadn't spoke from my heart, and it was a really interesting experience how a person that was part of that experience had come to me, because they divide you into two groups. And right off the bat, I said I didn't want to be in this group because I thought the people in my group were not the right people for me. And the next morning, one of the people in that group came up to me and said, if you want to get out of the group, it's fine with me, and I think it's because of me. And she was right. And she goes, if you want to, I'm totally okay if you don't want to be in the group, if you don't feel that it's right for you. And I'll even bring that up in our next group meeting. And I started crying. I go, it's probably best for me to be here now, because the bottom line is you do understand me more than I maybe even can speak how I really feel. And throughout the whole experience, she became the person that was saying how I felt, which was an incredible, healthy experience for me.
And you're very moved by it, huh, to this day?
No doubt. It makes, in some way, it provides me the opportunity to be okay saying how I really feel and not trying to say how I feel based on what others think. And that has been that connection with my inner self that gives me the opportunity to really, in some way, own myself, and in some way hold that authority within myself that makes me more connected to who I really am, that realness.
It comes up a lot in interviews how, being authentic leaders, unleashing our authentic power. It's a different type of leadership emerging. As you're saying, being vulnerable and authentic and transparent is one of those major qualities you're expressing right now, clearly.
No doubt. And I think, imagine what that means in an organization that can fundamentally be that true. I mean, what does that mean for communication? What does that mean for the network that's being built? If everybody in that network senses that, they may not have it because it's all sort of a work in progress, and I'll be the first to admit I'm right there too. But if they can understand that as the central core belief and value, and they can begin to build on that, I think the magnetism that comes with the creation of that team is just incredible, and what they can accomplish is unlimited. So that's what I'm trying to learn how to build and learn how to create within myself in a way that it resonates with others, in a way that maybe it doesn't need to be said so much as just demonstrated in a way that people feel that and can grow and connect with that. And that's sort of what this environment's about. If you walk on this land, the intention behind this place is to have that natural connection with the real world in a way that it sets the inner being at ease and makes the heart be felt. It eliminates all the crazy pollution, noise, and busyness we feel in the center of every city in the world, and puts you in the natural environment in a way that you feel the peace and the connection with nature in a way that makes you feel healthier and happier.
What are you reading right now?
Finishing the PR book. But I'm usually reading about 2 or 3 books at a time.
I figured that one out.
I always read my favorite magazines, which are like Fast Times and Wired, because I think I'm basically a techie sort of a media junkie, that really would like to figure out the most efficient way to communicate with the largest number of people in the most effective way. So I'm always trying to figure out what that key is.
And interestingly, I show up with millions of views monthly. It's interesting how you just attracted that.
And it's part of this, this following your intuition, as you know. I mean, what happens when you do those things is, especially when you're really clear on what that is, it brings so many other things to it. Yeah. I mean, with true intention comes true commitment from a lot of other people. And I think that's what your story is, and that's the story I get really most excited about as well. I feel like the creation of those range of things we haven't even discussed that I'd like to see happen here will happen more as a result of the intention than it will me out there doing things, which is what I suggest to all mankind. And I think that's hopefully what this will be a great example of. But to go to at a high level to discuss these 5 areas of focus for Common Ground Kauai, the number 1 is an educational environment for kids, because we believe it all starts with kids, and to give them the access to the educational experiences they don't have in normal public and private schools on this island, or probably in most places around the world. And to really start with communication, because I believe communication at every age is not something being taught at school. I mean, for example, I would love to know as a 50-year-old man how best to communicate with other men, with other women, with people, those range of people that I do deal with. I haven't been offered that educational experience anywhere. I would love to have imagined that it was offered to me at 5 years old. That when I was 5 years old, it was being ingrained in me how to talk to my mom and dad, how to talk to my friends, how to talk to girls, how to deal with my teachers, and then I got older, how to deal with business and life experiences in a way that I could get the most out of them. So I'm trying to imagine those range of skills that aren't generally speaking being offered, that in some way are part of this new paradigm that can help support the indigo kids and who knows what's coming next in a way that really makes them grow at their most fertile, exponential rate. That's the foundation for the educational center. The other part is the education that we are going to offer the adults, which is more around educational training for green entrepreneurism. So imagine the kind of basic skills you would need to do great in today's world with triple bottom line values, and then imagine the actual business skills you would need to become great at those kind of jobs in this environment. So it could be anywhere from web development and database development to organic gardening and organic farming. So there's one level of the entrepreneur training, and the other level is going to be more the actual job training that would work not only in this community but benefit somebody that would want to do these things in any community, and really move the people in this community and other communities up the wage scale. Because with a really small amount in training, you can take a $15 an hour laborer and turn him or her into a $30 an hour contract labor for whatever, and then go up to $50 just as easy with another maybe 3 to 6 months of education. That's amazing when you think about it. And that's really not being offered at that really clear-cut objectives, in many of the educational schools or any. I'm imagining the crash courses that make these skills so easy to get and make the employers so happy to have them that it's a slam dunk. So that's sort of the starting ground floor for the educational environment. There's going to be a wellness and a fitness center. The wellness center is going to really focus on the holistic healing methodologies that make it easy for an individual to manage his or her own health, sort of preventive health maintenance using holistic methods, and in ways that they can reduce their cost of insurance. For a family of 4 in Kauai right now, it costs $1,600 a month in insurance oftentimes. I believe with a $250 catastrophic policy with a $5,000 deductible, and with $100 a month in holistic health care, that cost can go to $350, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And you can get better preventive care. So another part of the health and fitness center would be, holistic healing methodologies for chronic disease, back stuff. It could be cancers, and go right down the list. But we know there's a bunch of things that aren't really being pushed on the front end because the drug companies and the general way Western medicine works is to throw more money at it rather than really think about the best, healing from the inside out kind of techniques. And if you sort of look at what's going on within the scope of every one of these programs, it's really saying, let that phoenix rise and support the new paradigm in a way that we can make it real from a financial perspective and really healthy from a really tangible community development perspective. So the next part is media. And so the media is just to, again, improve the human condition with the kind of media that would basically make it easier for people to learn about these things. On one level, create the awarenesses of, what the new paradigm is, but at another level, provide the how-to. So maybe, before I couldn't even plant my own garden, but now if I watch an hour and a half of these videos, I can get 6 things in the ground because I watched an hour and a half video for maybe not more than $50 and have great soil and have great seeds and have my own food and know how to manage my own garden. That's huge. And those kind of things are readily available, but people really haven't been thought that they're valuable. So to package them in a way that make it exciting and fun and valuable is sort of the focus of the media program. And in some way, to use a hyper-local news service to make it so the businesses in the community begin to get on the same page. Because right now, for example, in Kilauea, we have a newspaper that's on the other side of the island. We have newspapers in Honolulu, and we get the New York Times, but there is little to no news rather than the word of mouth of what's going on in our community. And those are things that affect us the most every day. Mm-hmm. Every community needs 2 or 3 people just putting out the most factual, real news they could, and then connecting the dots. Mm-hmm. If all we had was the capability to say, we have this issue we're dealing with in town, how many people believe this and how many people believe that? And the people that believe this, put your name on it so there's some accountability. Mm-hmm. And the people that don't believe it, Put your name over here and let's begin the conversation. Right now, it becomes a bunch of rumor. Nobody really knows what's going on. It becomes more an emotional and sort of the rabid minority controlling the general interest of the community. So my belief is that if we can put people on record, create accountability, put out real news with real facts, we can actually move the ball forward in a way that everybody comes together rather than tears everybody apart. So that's 3 of them. The 4th one is just an organic gardening environment and organic food processing environment, so that people could, in a relatively short period of time, not only grow an organic garden, but use a commercial kitchen to create the highest quality, most nutritious, most healthy, organic and biologically sound meals. So not only are they designed for general nutrition, hopefully at some point they're designed for the individual health of the individual human being, because we're all a little bit different. And as hard as that may seem to digest, generally speaking, it's really not a big leap. You can do a blood test and know the basic kind of things you really are deficient in a relatively short period of time, provide those things in 100% local organic foods in a way that gives you exactly what you need to be as healthy as you need to be. So that's sort of the foundation and the vision for the organic growing environment. And then the last but not least is in ecotourism and eco-camping. Basically, the main industry that drives Hawaii and Kauai is tourism at almost every level. So the cost of that from an environmental perspective, from a social perspective, is super high. And in some way, up to this point in time, the community leaders and big business have dominated it. I say more the government, not community leaders. And because it's the easiest way to do it with big business running it, we have the least consideration for what's really in the best interest of the community or really in the best interest of the environment. So I'm imagining an eco-camping or eco-tent kind of safari tent environment, that rather than the visitor staying in a 5 or 10-story hotel made of concrete with all the costs associated with that environmentally and from a sustainability perspective, imagine the really lightest footprint on the land for as far as the structure they stay in, but then also have them be considered more of a learning visitor rather than somebody that's just coming here to go, get a suntan. The people that come here, before they even get here, they might in some way become educated on the ways they can support not only the environment that they're going to be staying in, maybe whether they could provide a speech or provide some level of expertise to the program, and they could contribute to the community in some way, an actual gift, maybe a financial gift, or maybe they could just appear at an event and support something in some way. Right now, those doors aren't really being open. People the visitors come through these communities, they see them, but they really don't get them. They really have no idea what's really going on. They have these thoughts about them, but if we could make it so they really know what those communities are before they get there, rather than just knowing how to get to the beach, that's huge. And it really makes them feel like they're part of the culture rather than passing through the culture.
And then you plant a seed in them. They can grow where they live.
You got it. And that's sort of what this whole program is about. Can we plant the seeds? What's the best quality seeds we can put in the ground that are really small and right here? And how does that then grow into this community? And how is this an example for all communities? And how can we learn all together on how to do it best? It's not like saying this is an end point. This is a journey. It's a beginning.
And so you're planning on having common grounds in other places, possibly?
Yes. I would hope. They might not be called Common Ground Kauai, but they would be called whatever those communities feel is the best name for themselves. That in some way would be the best example for them to do education and health and organic agriculture in a way that really supports the long-term best interest of people that live there.
Some people say that seeds are going to become the biggest community. Do you believe that?
I believe that. And then one person just today actually suggested to me, why don't you, I could imagine your eco-camping environment being an eco-camping environment that does nothing but grows seeds in and around the camping environment. So you create these small, really light on the land camping environments that are everywhere, so that every community has their seed bank in the ground right next to the camping environment that's maintaining and nurturing them, which is a really beautiful vision, I think.
This is so exciting. I'm so happy you took the time to do this interview. Thank you for following your intuition.
Thank you for being here. I really admire the work you've done and what you're up to. So
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Well, much love, my beautiful co-creators from amazing Kauai with so many beautiful surprises here. I love this. Who would have thought?
Nobody knows. We'll see. Time will tell.
Time will tell. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hello, my beautiful co-creators. Lilu here. I'm actually in Hawaii, on Kauai, on this beautiful island, magic island of Kauai.
Yes.
You're so lucky to live here.
I feel the same way you do. That's what drew us here, is the beauty and the nature. The natural environment is amazing here.
So I'm sitting today with Chris Jaeb, that is the founder, or how do you say, the co-founder of this beautiful community?
Ground Kauai, which is a sustainable resource center located just outside Kilauea on the north shore of Kauai.
And you've created something amazing here. There is, you should see, and I'll try to film a little bit around because this is magnificent. There is gardens and facilities, and this is a huge vision that you had. Tell us about that vision and how this came about.
Sure. It used to be a guava plantation, and it was like 600 acres to it originally, but we purchased like the remaining about 50 acres. It really included the warehouse, which was the processing center, a snack bar, which was a gift shop, or snack shop, and a gift shop, and an administrational building. And our idea was to try to figure out how we could develop programs and facilities that would really resonate with what's best, really make it so that it's easy for the people with the skills, the passion, desire to do what they really love, and not be overwhelmed with all the range of other things that usually get in their way that keeps them from doing it. It's really to turn the people that are apathetic at the community level to people that are engaged at the community level. How can we make it easy for people that up to this point have sat on the sidelines because they don't like community meetings in general? They feel like it's hard to interact with the government. They feel like business is taken advantage of. How can we turn that around so they think, wow, this is an incredibly trustworthy environment that has a set of values that I can believe in and that I can support, and that I know that my time will be, if I do it, will be really valued and I feel will be worthwhile, so I'll be willing to give more still and bring more of my friends to it. So fundamentally that's what we're trying to accomplish, is can we make those weak links strong in a way that people that come through here, whether they're visitors to the community and they live in another part of the world, or they actually live here outright, can they connect at what level? Some people might say, I'm an expert in soils biology, and I can give you an hour online once every month, and we'll create the environment where they can do that here, and it has value in other places. But there also might be the doing these things.
Do you think there's a new model now that is being created, like business cannot be what it was before, and you call it green business, or you're in the business of green too, I guess, but there's something quite unique here happening?
You're 100% right. I believe there's a full new, and I think a lot of us feel the same thing. We're operating in a different world now, where transparency, openness, and co-creativity are going to build a better future for all, rather than having sort of that non-transparency, hold your cards close to your vest and do it the way, in the name of big business, that I can utilize or create the most profitable return. And that's essentially really the foundation of what the difference is in this approach. I feel like it's also saying that male-oriented, aggressive approach to big business and development has to be balanced more with the female approach, which really is more about bringing people together, communicating, and really making the ideal union rather than going from one extreme to the other. So that's what we're trying to really embark on, is how can we tell that new paradigm story in a way that it doesn't discard the old or say that that was bad. It really says, how can we create what we really want if there's true balance in the framework and the system itself.
So how,
from a sustainability perspective for the community and future generations. So we bought it about 4 years ago, and after sort of sitting and listening to the community in a range of meetings here and at other locations, we've come up with a vision around 5 main programs that we're going to facilitate that will create the future for this location. So out of that original 600 acres, we have about 50 acres, of which include an organic garden right now, an organic field-to-table food service, and a permaculture touring environment, which are all things we can do within our current special use permit on agricultural land. But then to do any things beyond that, we have to go back to the county and ask for their approval. So generally speaking, when people want to do new ideas or new projects on land here, they go to the county and they submit their plans, and that's the first time the community hears about them. What makes our process, or the way we're going about it, way different is we sat in the community for a number of years, we're a member of the community, and then we really ask the community again, what do you think of these plans? So that's the stage we're at right now. We're individually going to the leaders and everybody else in the community and saying, what do you think of this stuff? So over the next 3 to 5 months, we're going to get some feedback, and then from that, actually develop the programs themselves and begin to actually make the submittal that'll make it so that we can move forward and actually...
Do you interact again with community so everybody participates?
Well, there's a number of ways. I mean, the first way is the web's the easiest, but not everybody's on the web. So we do a range of other outreach with, different meetings and programs and events that we invite people to. For example, this weekend we're having a July 4th celebration, and the idea will be to get people out here that generally speaking aren't online or don't really know about us to become aware of what it is we are and what we're trying to accomplish. And probably not push it too hard, but more just make people aware that we're doing these things, and if they come to us, great. And the idea, probably long term though, is really to create that online relationship, because we can maintain that, turn that weak link into a strong link more easily in that environment, and sort of begin to say, okay, these people might be interested in funding a program, certain people might be interested in being customers, certain people might be operators. Our hope is that we can, through this process, not be the people that are doing it, to really hand it off and more be the curators, the steward of the vision, rather than the people that are an individual owner that has unlimited number of projects going on that would be very difficult for any individual to really manage effectively.
So it's more now a model, it's coming to us rather than pursuing things the hard way.
Correct. The idea is to